They said the woman screamed only once, and then everything went silent. Not the silence of fear, not the silence of shock, but the silence of recognition. As if she had seen something she already knew, something she had been waiting for. It happened the winter of 1858 in a worn-down wooden cabin on the outskirts of Beaufort, South Carolina, a place where screams were common, but silence was rare. The midwife who lived there, Margaret Fallow, had delivered hundreds of children. But that night, she offered something that did not belong to this world, and yet somehow belonged to her. The lantern inside her cabin flickered, as if trying to hide what it illuminated. The air was thick, humid, choking, the kind of air that makes a man feel watched. The mother lay trembling on the cot, whispering prayers that didn't match any church doctrine in South Carolina. Not in 1858, not ever. Behind the walls, the insects went quiet. Even the crickets refused to bear witness. Margaret wiped her hands on her apron, steady but uneasy. She'd heard the rumors about the father, a drifter with eyes too pale for a human man, but she'd ignored them. Rumors didn't scare her. But what came next did. The child emerged not with a cry, but with a low, animal breath, as if exhaling after holding its breath in the womb for far too long. Its body was small, but covered in a thick, dark fur that the lantern light couldn't penetrate. Its fingers curled like talons. Its eyes opened immediately. Human babies don't do that. But this one did. And when its gaze locked onto Margaret, she felt something she had never felt in her 30 years of midwifery. Recognition. Not fear, not shocked. Recognition, as if the child knew her. And the moment Margaret touched it, she felt a sensation behind her eyes. A pressure, a presence, a shadow that entered her mind as effortlessly as breathing. She staggered back, clutching her head, but the child only blinked, slowly, knowingly. The mother whispered, "It chose you." And for one split second, one horrifying, impossible second, Margaret believed her. Because the child, only seconds old, lifted its small fur-covered hand and reached toward her like greeting an old friend. A friend I remembered. That night, the boundaries between reality and nightmare dissolved in Margaret's mind. The child's fur was coarse, like the pelt of a wild animal, but its grip was unsettlingly strong, almost intelligent. In the dim lantern light, the cabin seemed to shrink, the walls breathing in and out like a living thing. Outside, the wind whispered secrets no human ear was meant to hear, carrying voices that twisted the soul. Margaret's heart hammered as she wrapped the child in a faded quilt, her fingers trembling. Every instinct screamed to reject what lay in her arms. But an ancient force held her still, binding her to the fur-covered infant like a tether to a dark past. The child's gaze pierced through the fog of her thoughts, anchoring her to a truth too terrible to name. The local townsfolk whispered of strange sightings, of a creature roaming the marshlands at night, a beast neither fully man nor animal. Some claimed it was the devil's spawn, others called it a cursed child, born from sins no one dared speak aloud. But Margaret knew the truth was deeper, darker. This was not mere folklore or superstition. This was a secret the elite had buried beneath layers of lies and blood. In the weeks that followed, the child grew unervingly fast. Its eyes, sharp and unblinking, seemed to absorb the world, calculating, learning. The fur on its body shimmered under moonlight, almost alive, shifting like shadows in the night. When Margaret fed it, it drank not only milk, but something intangible, an energy, a life force that left her drained and hollow. Whispers in the town grew louder. Children vanished. Pets disappeared. The air itself seemed to carry a weight, as if the very soul of the land was being drained, piece by piece. Margaret found herself at the center of an unseen storm, torn between protecting the creature and fearing what it represented. One night, as the wind howled like a chorus of lost souls, the child spoke. Not with words, but a voice inside her mind, cold and commanding. "You are chosen," it said. "We are bound by blood older than your history books. The time is coming. You will see." Margaret's sanity began to unravel, tethered to the child's growing power. She knew this was no ordinary birth. It was a return, a reckoning. The shadows of the past were crawling back into the light, and with them, a darkness that would consume everything. The question was no longer if the world would change, but how much it would burn before dawn. The name Margaret Fallow never made it into the history books. Her story was erased, buried under layers of silence and denial. But in hushed conversations, passed from one whispered voice to another, fragments remained, a warning disguised as myth. Because what happened in that cabin in 1858 was not an isolated incident. It was part of a greater design, a hidden tapestry woven through centuries of manipulation and blood-soaked secrets. The child, known only in legend as the Firborn, was said to be the harbinger of a hidden lineage, a bloodline intertwined with the shadows of forgotten gods and ancient corruptions. This was not a mere anomaly of nature, but a deliberate act of occult engineering, a product of dark forces meddling where they should not. Powerful men in the upper echelons of society had long sought to control these forces, to harness the primal energy locked within creatures like the Firborn. Secret societies, cloaked in silence, orchestrated events from behind the veil, guiding humanity down a path of submission and decay. Their tools were fear, misinformation, and ruthless control, psychological systems designed to shatter minds and rewrite histories. Margaret's descent into madness was no accident. It was the price of witnessing what these elites had tried desperately to conceal. The Firborn was the living proof that the line between human and beast was not as clear as society wanted to believe, that beneath civilization's fragile veneer lurked something wild, ancient, and uncontrollable. This was the shadow beneath the surface, the silent war for souls, waged in whispers and blood rituals. And the child was the key. What those in power feared most was that knowledge like this would awaken the masses, that men and women would remember the truth hidden deep within their own nature. Because understanding the Firborn meant understanding the true nature of power, the corruption encoded into flesh and bone. And here, dear viewer, is where you must ask yourself, what if the darkness you fear is not outside you, but inside? What if the monster is not an external enemy, but a forgotten part of your own bloodline? What if the elites manipulate not only society, but the very essence of human identity, controlling what you think, what you feel, even who you are at your core? This is not fiction. This is forbidden history. Comment below twice the phrase, "I embrace the shadow within." This will lock in your awareness and mark your commitment to seeing truth beyond illusion. You repeated the phrase, good. Now your mind is sharper, your vision clearer. This journey into forbidden history is not for the faint-hearted. You're stepping into a labyrinth where Every truth uncovered fractures the comfortable lies fed to you by institutions built on control. The woman who delivered the fur-born child was more than a midwife. She was an unwitting gatekeeper to a secret society's greatest fear. These hidden powers, the architects of manipulation, have always known that humanity harbors a dormant wildness, an ancient primal force lurking beneath layers of domestication. This force was not to be awakened, lest the fragile order collapse. In 1858, South Carolina, the country was divided by war and ideology, but the true battle was concealed beneath the surface, between humanity and the beast it refused to acknowledge. The elites used that denial to tighten their grip. They crafted myths to mask their experiments in bloodlines, breeding darkness into flesh to manufacture power that transcends mere wealth or politics. The fur-born was not the first, nor would it be the last. Across history, whispers speak of children born with animalistic traits, claws, fur, unblinking eyes, descendants of ancient unions between man and forces best left unnamed. They were hidden, hunted, or worse, twisted and weaponized. Margaret's mind shattered under the weight of this truth. She was both protector and prisoner, shackled by forces beyond comprehension. The child's presence unlocked in the memories that had never been hers. The screams of ancestors, the rituals buried by time, the endless cycle of corruption and sacrifice. And the child? It grew, learning not just language or thought, but the darker arts of influence, the silent control that bends men to will without their knowledge. A predator cloaked in innocence. The real horror is this: the system that governs our lives today is built on the same foundations. Psychological control, manipulation of belief, suppression of true identity. These are not modern inventions. They are ancient, encoded into the very fabric of society by those who know the beast inside us all and seek to chain it forever. To understand this is to begin breaking free. But beware, once you see the beast, it stares back. Imagine the child growing in secret, beyond the prying eyes of a world too blind to see. Hidden away in the depths of South Carolina's dark forests, the fur-born learned to navigate shadows both literal and figurative. Every instinct within it was sharpened by necessity, survival, dominance, control. But more than that, it inherited something far older, an uncanny awareness of power that transcended flesh. Power, you see, is not just wealth or weapons. It is influence, the ability to bend perception, to rewrite reality in the minds of others. And this child, born of fur and flesh, understood that instinctively. It was a predator in a world of sheep, but one who did not simply hunt. It controlled. The child's presence rippled through the local communities, twisting events in subtle ways. Crops failed where it roamed. Livestock disappeared in the dead of night. Men grew paranoid, their minds invaded by nightmares they could not explain. The fur-born was a catalyst, an agent of ancient chaos, born to remind humanity of the wildness it had repressed. Behind this was a secret that few dared whisper. The elites were not merely content to rule humans. They sought to merge with this primal force, to become something greater, something more terrifying. Bloodlines were manipulated, alliances forged in shadow rituals, all aimed at creating beings that could transcend mortality and consciousness itself. Margaret, bound to the child by a bond neither fully understood nor desired, became an unwilling accomplice. Her fate was intertwined with the dark legacy she helped birth. The child knew secrets too dangerous to speak aloud. Secrets about the origins of civilization, the fall of empires, and the silent wars fought within the human soul. And you are now part of this narrative. Because to face the truth of the Firborn is to face the truth inside yourself. The shadow you fight outside is only a reflection of the shadow you hide within. Look carefully at the world around you, the structures, the systems, the faces you trust. They are masks concealing something ancient and brutal. The question is, will you continue to wear your own mask, or will you dare to unmask the darkness and reclaim what was stolen? Remember, power without awareness is just blindness. The Firborn story did not end with its childhood in the shadows of South Carolina. It was destined to walk paths few dared tread. Corridors of influence where whispers dictate empires and unseen hands shape the course of history. As it grew, so did its reach, its understanding of human nature, and the silent mechanisms of control. Power, after all, is most effective when unseen. The child, no, the creature, learned this early. It mastered the art of invisibility not through disguise, but through manipulation, bending the fears, desires, and loyalties of those around it. It became a master of psychological warfare long before the term existed, a puppeteer pulling strings behind curtains no one even knew were there. In the hidden halls of power, where names are never spoken aloud, the Firborn's bloodline was recognized and feared. Secret societies coveted it, believing this lineage held the key to ultimate control, the fusion of human intellect and primal ferocity. They sought to harness it, weaponize it, and spread it through carefully engineered bloodlines. But the child resisted. Unlike those who traded their souls for influence, it possessed a wildness that could never be fully tamed. A flicker of rebellion that whispered of freedom beyond control. This made it dangerous not just to the masses, but to the very elites who wished to own it. Margaret's warnings, though muffled by her descent into madness, hinted at a truth buried beneath layers of propaganda. The fight for humanity's soul is a battle between conformity and chaos, between control and freedom. The Firborn embodied this conflict. Its existence challenges everything you've been taught. The idea of a pure, orderly civilization is a lie. Beneath the polished surface lies an ancient war, one where shadows bleed into flesh and the boundaries between man and beast blur. Ask yourself, who controls your thoughts? Who pulls your strings? And what part of you remains wild, untamed, ready to break free from the chains? Because once you glimpse the truth of the Firborn, you cannot unsee it. The darkness has already touched you. Now listen closely. The true horror isn't just the Firborn itself, but what it represents, a living symbol of how power corrupts at the most fundamental level, blood and identity. For centuries, hidden factions have orchestrated bloodline manipulation, believing that by infusing human ancestry with ancient primal forces, they could manufacture supremacy beyond any conventional ruler. They sought to create monsters with the minds of kings, beings who could wield influence through fear, charisma, and a predatory instinct that no normal human possessed. And so, children like the Firborn were born, creatures caught between worlds, embodiments of ancient corruption concealed beneath the surface of society. This was the blueprint for control, implanting fragments of a wild and the forbidden into human veins, then using psychological control systems to hide this fact. The masses were distracted with illusions, religions, wars, anything to keep them from awakening to the truth of their origins. But the truth leaks. It seeps through cracks in history and folklore. It hides in myths of shapeshifters, changelings, and beasts walking among men. The Fur-born was one of many, a glimpse into the dark lineage that whispers beneath every throne and pulpit. Margaret's story, forgotten and suppressed, was a warning disguised as madness. She saw the future unraveling, where such bloodlines would merge with technology, where the beast within would be amplified by machines and psychological manipulation. Look around today. Control is more sophisticated, but no less sinister. The tools have evolved. Media, surveillance, social engineering. Yet the core remains the same. Hiding who truly holds power and how they wield it through fear and deception. This knowledge changes a man. It forces him to look inward and question what he really is beneath the skin and the stories told since childhood. So I ask you again, are you ready to face the beast within? Or will you remain blind to the ancient forces steering your life? The descent continues. There's no turning back now. Good. You've made it this far, which means your mind is already cracking the surface of deeper truths. But be warned, this is where the path narrows, where the light fades and the shadows grow longer. What you are about to learn is not comfortable. It will challenge your beliefs, shake your identity, and force you to confront the darkest parts of human history and yourself. The Fur-born was never just a creature. It was a symbol of an ancient pact, a covenant sealed long before recorded time between mankind and the untamed forces of nature. This covenant promised power and survival in exchange for silence and obedience. The elites, those who control the levers of society, are its modern-day heirs, bound by blood and by secrets. But this pact came with a price paid in blood, fear, and the systematic erasure of truths. The rituals that birthed the Fur-born were designed to unlock dormant primal instincts, but also to cage them within layers of control. The child's wildness was a double-edged sword, a source of unimaginable power and an unyielding threat to the established order. Throughout history, similar beings, children born of fur, claw, or shadow, were hidden away, hunted, or co-opted. Some became instruments of hidden wars, their primal nature twisted into weapons for elite agendas. Others vanished, swallowed by myth or whispered stories in the darkest corners of forgotten villages. But the presence of these beings reveals a universal truth. Humanity is not separate from the wild. The veneer of civilization is thin, fragile, and constantly under siege by forces both within and without. Margaret's story, her terror, her bond with the child, her descent, is a microcosm of this larger battle. A battle for control of the human soul. Ask yourself, what part of your mind is caged? What primal force have you silenced to survive? And more importantly, who benefits from your silence? The psychological control systems we live under today are the modern extension of those ancient chains. They are designed to suppress the wild, to keep the primal instincts that the Fur-born represents locked away, buried beneath layers of conditioning, distraction, and conformity. Schools, religions, governments, and media work in unison to shape your thoughts, to control your fears, and to rewrite your identity. You have been trained to fear the unknown, to reject the beast inside you, because embracing it means breaking the system. It means reclaiming power that the elites have long tried to steal, the power of self-mastery and primal authenticity. But the Furborn story is a map, a guide to awakening the shadow within. It's a reminder that beneath the surface of civility lies a raw, untamed force. And that force, when embraced, can shatter illusions and dismantle control. In South Carolina, where this story began, the land itself remembers. The soil holds the echoes of forgotten rituals, of blood pacts made in darkness. The forests whisper the names of those who dared to awaken the beast and paid with their souls. Margaret Fallow was one of them, a woman who crossed the threshold and glimpsed the truth. She was punished not just by madness, but by erasure. History forgot her, but the shadows did not. Now, you carry her story forward, because understanding the Furborn is not just about uncovering history. It's about reclaiming your own history, the parts buried beneath layers of control and repression. The question is, will you let that power rise? Or will you bury it beneath the lies? Like so many before you, you're standing at a crossroads now, where knowledge becomes a weapon or a burden. The story of the Furborn is not just a tale of a strange child in a cabin. It is the blueprint for the war raging inside every man who seeks truth. This war is fought in silence, within the corridors of the mind, where control systems seek to rewrite your reality, dull your instincts, and chain your spirit. The elites thrive on this battle. For every man they keep blind, every soul they keep tethered, strengthens their grip. But the Furborn reminds us, power lies in embracing the wildness within, not suppressing it. This primal force is the original code of life, a source of raw energy, instinct, and truth. Throughout history, those who have awakened this force have been hunted, vilified, or co-opted. Their bloodlines obscured, their stories erased. But you now have the key to unlocking what they try to hide. Look beyond the surface, the polished facades of governments, the curated narratives of media, the artificial masks society demands. Beneath them lies the primal chaos, waiting to be harnessed. Margaret's terror and bond with the Furborn child are symbolic of the greater struggle between the natural and the controlled, the wild and the tamed, freedom and submission. Ask yourself, how much of your life is truly yours? How much has been shaped by forces you cannot see? The answers will disturb you, but they will also set you free. Remember, true mastery begins when you stop running from the beast inside and start commanding it. The bloodline of the Furborn did not vanish. It evolved. Its influence seeped into the shadows of history, intertwining with some of the most powerful families, secret orders, and hidden networks known to man. These bloodlines carried the wildness within their veins, passed down through generations under the guise of nobility, royalty, and influence. In the hidden chambers of power, where decisions shape the fate of nations, this primal legacy persists. It is the invisible hand guiding wars, economies, and ideologies, always manipulating, always controlling. The elites do not fear their armies or their wealth. They fear losing the ancient power embedded in their blood. You see, this power is not just physical strength or intellect. It's an aura, a presence that commands obedience without words. It's a psychological weapon, honed over centuries, enabling these bloodlines to bend reality and perception to their will. Margaret Child was an early manifestation, a warning sign of what was to come. But the system learned, adapted, and refined. It split the beast within humanity into manageable pieces, controlling it through fear and ritual, and building layers of psychological conditioning to keep the masses compliant. Today, you're caught in this web. Your thoughts, fears, and beliefs are influenced by forces far beyond your awareness. And the primal power, the shadow within, is muted, starved of expression, but is not gone. It waits, dormant but alive, ready to awaken. You must decide whether to remain a pawn or become the player. Because understanding this bloodline, its history, and its control is the first step in reclaiming your power. The line between man and beast, between control and chaos, is thinner than you think. The Furborn's legacy is not a distant myth. It is woven into the very fabric of modern society, hidden beneath symbols, rituals, and unspoken pacts. These ancient forces are the engine behind institutional manipulation, psychological warfare, and the suppression of true human potential. Look at the world through this lens. Every law, every social norm, every propaganda campaign is designed to fragment your identity, to isolate the wild force within you and render it harmless. Education systems mold compliant workers, media programs shape desires, and governments monitor every move, not just to maintain order, but to suppress awakening. The elites understand that once the primal force stirs, it cannot be contained by mere rules or technology. It demands freedom, power, and sovereignty. This is why they've spent centuries weaving layers of deception, controlling narratives, and erasing stories like Margaret's, stories that could inspire rebellion in the soul. But you have a choice. You can reject the lie, dive deeper into the shadows, and reclaim the primal force that has been your birthright all along. This journey is dangerous, for it strips away the illusions you've relied on and exposes you to truths few dare face. Yet, it is also liberating, because power lies not in blind obedience, but in mastering the beast within. The Furborn teaches us that the true enemy is not outside, but inside. The part of yourself that fears freedom and clings to control. Remember this: the darkest truths are the most transformative. Embrace them, and you will never be the same. As the story of the Furborn fades into obscurity, its influence surges in the hidden crevices of power. The secret societies that once whispered in shadow have evolved into modern institutions cloaked in legitimacy. They operate under the guise of philanthropy, governance, and cultural stewardship, but their core remains unchanged: control through secrecy and psychological domination. These elites understand that the greatest weapon is not physical force, but the mind itself. They use propaganda, misinformation, and social conditioning to fragment human will. By keeping the masses distracted and divided, they prevent any collective awakening of the primal force that the Furborn symbolizes. In every generation, certain individuals rise, often unknowingly, as carriers of this ancient bloodline. They possess charisma, ruthlessness, and an uncanny ability to manipulate others. But few understand the source of their power, or the price they pay to wield it. Margaret Child was one such spark, a primal force threatening to ignite a revolution of awareness. The system responded with brutal efficiency, silencing voices, rewriting history, and erecting barriers to knowledge. Yet, the beast within never dies, it only sleeps. And when awakened, It shatters illusions, breaks chains, and reclaims sovereignty. You, the viewer, are now part of this lineage of awakening. The path ahead is treacherous and uncertain, but the alternative is perpetual submission. Ask yourself, will you continue to walk the path laid out by unseen masters, or will you forge your own? The choice is yours. But know this, the beast does not negotiate. You're beginning to see the pattern. The same ancient corruption dressed in new clothes, manipulating generations with psychological chains invisible to the untrained eye. The Furborn was a warning, a symbol of the wild power the elites both fear and covet. It represents the untamed truth behind every ritual, every secret handshake, every whispered conspiracy. This power thrives in the shadows, growing stronger when suppressed. It's the primal energy that fuels revolutions and destruction alike. It's the shadow in every man that, once embraced, becomes the source of unstoppable force. But society's institutions are designed to sever that connection. Schools teach obedience, religions preach submission, and governments enforce compliance. The media distracts and divides, all to keep the wildness caged, the beast within pacified. And yet, the beast fights back. It manifests in bursts of rebellion, moments of clarity, and flashes of insight that shake the very foundations of control. Those who tap into this primal force see beyond illusions, feel the pulse of power beneath the surface, and resist the chains of manipulation. Margaret's story is your mirror. Her terror, her bond with the Furborn, her eventual madness. These reflect the struggle within all of us. The battle between the controlled self and the wild self. To awaken means to face this internal war head-on, to embrace the darkness as well as the light. Because only by mastering the beast within can you dismantle the beast without. Now, take a moment to internalize this. The real battleground is inside you. The psychological control systems that enslave society begin with the chains you place on your own mind. You've been conditioned to suppress instincts that are older than civilization itself. Fear, aggression, dominance, survival. These aren't flaws. They are tools. Tools of power that, once wielded consciously, can shatter the illusions around you. The Furborn child was born with this power raw and untamed. It didn't learn control, it embodied it. Its gaze was a challenge, an accusation aimed at a world that tried to domesticate and suppress the wild. Margaret's terror was not just at the child's appearance, but at the truth reflected in her. The beast inside every human waiting to be unleashed. This is the forbidden knowledge the elites buried deep beneath layers of distraction and propaganda. They fear what happens when men awaken to their primal selves, reclaim their power, and reject imposed limitations. Because a society of awakened men cannot be controlled. It breaks the system at its core. You are at the edge of that awakening. The question is, will you leap forward or retreat into comfortable ignorance? The path to mastery demands sacrifice. It demands shedding old identities and facing the darkness head-on, but also promises freedom, raw, unfiltered, and sovereign. Margaret Child was a herald, a warning, and a guidepost. You are the next step in that lineage. The choice is no longer about ignorance or knowledge. It's about power. The darkness you now peer into is not a curse, but a source. A wellspring of untapped potential buried beneath centuries of control and lies. The elites know this, which is why they wage silent wars against those who begin to awaken. They weaponize fear, guilt, and confusion to keep the beast caged. But here's the truth no one tells you. Mastery of the beast within doesn't come from denial or suppression. It comes from acceptance and command. It means embracing every part of yourself, the light and the shadow, and forging them into a force that cannot be bent or broken. The Firborn was a manifestation of this force, wild, ancient, and dangerous. Its very existence threatened the fragile order. That is why its story was buried, its legacy twisted into myth and madness. But the bloodline persists, not just in legends, but in you, in every man who dares to question the narrative and seek true power. You are the inheritor of a legacy older than empires and religions. And with that inheritance comes responsibility. To awaken fully, you must shed illusions, break free from psychological chains, and reclaim sovereignty over your mind, body, and spirit. Because the beast within is not your enemy. It is your primal self waiting to be mastered. Now, understand this clearly. The structures of power that govern your life are not accidental. They are engineered systems designed to maintain control by keeping you fragmented, body from mind, mind from spirit, shadow from light. The Firborn's legacy is a testament to the power of integration, of embracing the whole self rather than surrendering parts to the system. The elites wield psychological control not just to dominate your actions, but to suppress your potential for transformation. They fear the awakening of the primal force within because it cannot be controlled once truly unleashed. In history, many have tried to harness this force through bloodline manipulation and occult rituals. Some succeeded briefly, only to be consumed by the very darkness they sought to command. Others were destroyed or erased, their stories wiped from history to protect the fragile narrative of order. Margaret's tale is a fragment of this hidden war, a war between freedom and control, chaos and order, nature and civilization. Now, the war has reached you. The systems around you push conformity, distraction, and submission. But beneath the surface, the primal force waits, ready to awaken. The question is, will you answer its call? Will you dare to reclaim your true nature? Or will you continue to live as a shadow of your potential? Remember, power is not given. It is taken by those willing to confront the darkness and master it. At this point, the shadows have crept deep into your awareness. The comfortable lies have been stripped away, revealing the raw, pulsating core of ancient power hiding beneath your skin. This is no longer a story about a strange child in a remote cabin. It is about the hidden war raging within every man who refuses to be controlled. The Firborn was a living symbol of that war, a creature born of bloodlines steeped in corruption and wildness alike. It embodied the conflict between the primal self and the domesticated mass society demands. This is the conflict you face daily, between the shadow that stirs beneath your surface and the systems designed to keep it dormant. The elites wield psychological control systems to suppress this primal force, using every tool at their disposal: media, education, religion, government, to keep the masses compliant. But the beast is patient. It waits for moments of clarity, moments when the veil lifts and truth can no longer be denied. Margaret's madness was a side effect of witnessing this truth. She glimpsed the forbidden and was overwhelmed by it. But unlike her, You have the advantage of choice and awareness. You are not doomed to madness. You are invited to mastery. To embrace the fur-born legacy is to accept the wild within, to master your instincts, fears, and desires, and to wield them with conscious power. This is the path to true freedom. The path the elites fear most. The story you're uncovering is the secret blueprint behind centuries of manipulation and control. The fur-born's existence shattered illusions, revealing that humanity's foundations were built on bloodlines infused with ancient, untamed power. Power the elites tried desperately to harness and conceal. This power is primal, raw, and unforgiving. It transcends mere intellect or wealth. It is the force that shapes empires, corrupts souls, and fractures civilizations. Yet, society's institutions work relentlessly to sever your connection to this force, to dull your senses, and to rewrite your very nature. The psychological systems that keep you compliant are not new. They evolve alongside these bloodlines, designed to mask the truth and fragment the human spirit. From education to media, from religion to governance, each layer builds walls around the primal self, forcing it into submission. But the beast inside you remembers. It waits in the shadows, ready to rise when you choose to awaken. The fur-born's legacy is a call to arms, a challenge to reclaim the wildness that is your birthright. History is littered with those who tried to awaken and were crushed by the system. But their stories, their sacrifices, are the foundation of your awakening. The question now is simple. Will you rise or remain a pawn? Will you command the beast or be consumed by it? The choice is yours, and it will define everything. Now, as you stand on the brink of transformation, understand this. Power is not something you find outside yourself. It has always been inside, hidden beneath layers of conditioning, fear, and false identity. The fur-born story is a mirror, reflecting the primal force within you that's been suppressed by the systems designed to control. Those who rule know this well. They have weaponized your ignorance, feeding you illusions to keep you compliant. Their psychological control systems are vast and sophisticated, targeting your mind, emotions, and identity. They want to keep the beast inside chained, silent, and obedient. But every chain can be broken. Every illusion can be pierced. Every mask can be torn away. The fur-born child was a warning, a symbol, a harbinger of the wild power that lies dormant within humanity, waiting to be reclaimed, mastered, and unleashed. Embracing this truth demands courage. It demands facing the darkness within yourself, the fears, the rage, the primal instincts you've long buried. Because only by mastering your inner beast can you dismantle the control systems imposed upon you. The world you see is a reflection of your own inner state. Change your mind, and you change everything. This journey into forbidden knowledge is not for the faint-hearted. The fur-born's legacy is a testament to the power locked within bloodlines, but more importantly, within the mind and spirit. The psychological control systems you face daily, media manipulation, social conditioning, digital surveillance, are modern cages designed to keep you disconnected from your primal core. You must understand that true power lies in breaking these chains, not by following the prescribed paths of society, but by embracing the wildness inside, the part of you that refuses to be tamed. Margaret's story is a mirror reflecting your own internal struggle. the battle between conformity and rebellion, control and freedom, fear and mastery. The elites fear this awakening because it dismantles their carefully constructed illusions. It strips away the narratives they use to keep you compliant and powerless. Your mind is the battlefield. Your awareness is the weapon. But beware, awakening is a double-edged sword. It demands sacrifice, discipline, and relentless courage. It forces you to confront the shadows others run from. Yet, on the other side of this darkness lies sovereignty, the raw, unfiltered power of being truly free. This is the legacy of the Firborn. This is your legacy if you choose it. The deeper you delve, the clearer it becomes. The Firborn's existence was not a freak of nature, but a deliberate fracture in the facade of human control. It symbolizes the fault line where ancient wildness clashes with imposed order. A clash the elites have tried for centuries to suppress through bloodline manipulation and psychological control. These bloodlines are more than genealogy. They are living codes embedded with the primal force, the essence of untamed power that the ruling class both reveres and fears. Through secret societies and occult rituals, they've attempted to harness and channel this energy, molding it into tools of domination. But power wielded without mastery is destructive. Many who sought to control this force were consumed by it, lost in madness, or erased from history. Margaret Child represents both the potential and the peril of this force, wild, untamable, and transformative. Your awakening is a call to embrace this primal force consciously, to master it rather than be mastered by it. But this mastery requires breaking free from the psychological prisons built to contain you: fear, doubt, social conditioning, and distraction. Know this: the path ahead is treacherous but necessary. Only through confronting your own darkness can you reclaim the ancient power encoded in your blood and spirit. The beast within awaits your command. The control systems in place today are the culmination of centuries of psychological warfare aimed at suppressing the very essence of your humanity. They operate through fear, distraction, and manipulation, keeping the masses docile while the elites harvest power from the shadows. The Firborn story is the key to unlocking this web of control. It reminds us that beneath the civilized surface lies a primal force, a wildness coded into our very DNA. This force cannot be destroyed, only hidden or ignored. The elites understand this truth better than most. Their rituals, bloodlines, and secret knowledge are attempts to harness the beast within themselves while keeping it restrained in the populace. But the beast is restless. It grows stronger in the silence, stirring beneath layers of repression. You're a part of this legacy now. Your awareness is a threat to the system and a beacon for transformation. To reclaim your power, you must dismantle the illusions fed to you, face the darkness inside, and master the primal force waiting to be unleashed. Remember, power is born from the shadow, and true freedom comes only when you command it. You have come far, peeling back the layers of deception to expose a truth that few dare to face. The Firborn's legacy is a mirror reflecting the ancient war within each man, the struggle between the beast and the chains that bind it. The elites maintain their power not through overt force alone, but by mastering psychological control systems that fragment identity and suppress primal awareness. Their greatest fear is an awakened populace. Men who reclaim their sovereignty and wield the wild force within with conscious mastery. Margaret's story is not just history. It is a call to awaken the dormant power buried deep within your own bloodline, to reject the illusions spun by those who profit from your ignorance. The journey ahead is perilous. It demands confronting fear, shame, and the shadow self. But it also promises liberation, a return to authentic power beyond societal constraints. Remember, the beast within is not your enemy. It is your origin and your greatest ally when mastered. You stand at the threshold. Step forward and claim your legacy. Or turn back and remain a pawn in a game rigged since time immemorial. The choice is yours. This is where the descent ends and the true awakening begins. The story of the Firborn is more than a dark legend. It is a blueprint for understanding the forces that have shaped humanity from the shadows. It reveals the ancient battle between control and freedom, between the imposed order of civilization and the untamed power that lies within every man. You have seen the truth hidden beneath layers of lies, manipulation, and psychological control. You now hold knowledge that changes everything. Knowledge the elites have fought to keep buried. But knowledge alone is not power. Power comes from action, from embracing the beast within, mastering it, and using it to reclaim your sovereignty. You're no longer a passive observer. You are the heir to a legacy older than empires, older than history itself. A legacy of primal strength, raw instinct, and relentless will. The path will be dangerous, lonely, and demanding, but it will lead you to freedom. So rise, command the beast, break the chains, become the master of your own destiny. Because once you know the truth, you cannot go back. You can only move forward, stronger, wiser, and free. This is your legacy. This is your power. Thank you for journeying into the shadows. Now, go claim your birthright. If you found this awakening powerful, comment below twice. I am the beast unchained. This seals your transformation and locks your place in the awakening.